In this video, you will learn to bind off. When we're binding off, we are getting the stitches off of our needles. So we have two needles here. One needle has stitches on it, and we will be holding that needle in our left hand. One needle does not have stitches on it. We will hold that needle in our right hand. We are going to first demonstrate binding off knitwise, and then I will also demonstrate binding off purlwise. It will usually state in your pattern which way you should bind off. To bind off knitwise, what you will do is you will knit the first stitch on that needle that has stitches on it. If you're not familiar with how to knit a stitch, refer to my video on how to create a knit stitch. So we knit the first stitch, and we actually knit the second stitch as well. Now we've got two stitches over on our right needle and the rest of our stitches over on our left needle. Take the tip of your left needle, get under that first stitch on the right needle, so it's the stitch furthest away from the tip. Get under that with your tip, and now bring it over the tip of that right needle. So you have been left with one stitch. So now we're going to knit one stitch again, and we're going to do this process again. We're going to take the tip of that left needle, get it under the furthest away stitch on the right needle, and go over that tip of the right needle. We're now left with one stitch. So we are decreasing the number of stitches on our left needle every time we knit and bring a stitch over here. And then we are decreasing a stitch over on the right needle each time we do that loop and we go over the tip. And eventually what you're going to see, you'll see it better as we bind off some more, the fabric is going to be completely off the needles when we are finished. So I'm going to demonstrate binding off knitwise a couple more times. So knit another stitch, and now take that stitch that is furthest away on your right needle, take it over the tip of your right needle. I'm going to demonstrate one more time doing a bind off knitwise. Now for the rest of the stitches, I am going to demonstrate binding off purlwise. So if your pattern says to bind off purlwise, you will do purl stitches rather than knit stitches. So I had to bring the yarn to the front of my work over on my right needle, and I'm going to purl a stitch. And if you're not familiar with the purl stitch or you need a refresher, go ahead and review my video on the purl stitch. Now this part of the process is the same. Tip of the left needle under the stitch that's furthest away on the right needle, bring that over the tip on the right needle. Now we'll purl another stitch, and we will bring that stitch over the tip of our right needle, and we will purl another stitch, and we will bring that stitch that's furthest away on our right needle over the tip. And now I will finish this up so that you can see that the knitting is off of the needles because we will have binded off all of the stitches. Now you will be left with one stitch on your needle, because in this process we're always left with one stitch and then we bring another stitch over. There gets a point where there's no other stitches that you can bring over. So to finish things up, you can cut your yarn, or I'm going to go ahead and just pull it apart like that. But what I do with that last stitch is I keep it really loose, and then I just make a knot. I put my yarn through that loop and then I pull. And so now we have binded off all of our stitches.